Who needs a concert hall when you had a flying piano lounge serenading you above the clouds? Airplane food used to be about far more than peanuts. It was a feast fit for royalty. Today we're looking at 10 air travel features that defined the golden age of flying. This was an era roughly spanning the 1950s through the late 1970s, when commercial aviation was still new enough to feel magical, and airlines competed fiercely not on price, but on pure spectacle. Flying was reserved for a smaller, wealthier slice of the population, and every airline wanted passengers to feel it.
Back then, if you wanted to stretch your legs on a plane, you didn't need to be a contortionist. Cabins were far less crowded, with seats that were wider and offered more room to move. That extra space let passengers relax and enjoy the journey, instead of feeling squeezed in. It was an era when flying felt like a genuine luxury experience, rather than just a way to get from A to B. Airlines prioritized passenger comfort, overcramming in as many seats as possible. Seat pitch, the distance between rows, averaged 36 to 40 inches back then, compared to just 28 inches today. Some airlines even advertised the roominess directly to travelers, boasting about lounge-style seating sections where passengers could stretch out fully. Coach class alone often felt more spacious than today's premium economy, a stark contrast to the tightly packed cabins most flyers know now. Picture being served a 5-star dinner mid-flight, just like at a top restaurant. In the old days, flying meant gourmet meals, full multi-course spreads prepared by trained chefs. Passengers enjoyed dishes like carved roast beef or turkey, all served on fine china with real silverware, turning the meal into a genuinely luxurious affair. It wasn't just about the food, it was about making the flight itself an occasion. Olympic Airways even outfitted their first-class cabins with gold-plated cutlery. Some carriers went even further, offering onboard carving stations where a steward would slice roast meats to order right in front of passengers. Wine lists were curated by sommeliers, and menus were often printed fresh for every route, sometimes featuring regional specialties tied to the flight's destination.
You'd never catch anyone boarding in pajamas back then. It was closer to a runway fashion show in the sky. Both passengers and crew dressed to the nines, men in suits and ties, women in elegant dresses and hats, treating air travel like a prestigious event. Flight attendants, then known as stewardesses, wore striking uniforms designed by fashion houses like Christian Dior and Chanel. Flying was glamorous and unforgettable, so much so that some airlines staged actual fashion shows in the aisles. Braniff International Airways took this further than almost anyone else, hiring designer Emilio Pucci to create a rotating wardrobe of colorful uniforms for its stewardesses, complete with a now infamous in-flight striptease campaign, where crew members changed outfits during longer flights as part of the airline's marketing.
Believe it or not, there was a time you could sip a cocktail to live piano music mid-flight. In the 1970s, some first-class cabins doubled as luxury lounges, complete with bars and pianos, where travelers could relax, mingle, and enjoy a drink. These weren't full grand pianos, but usually electric Wurlitzers or organs, creating the vibe of a sophisticated in-flight party where guests could even sing along. American Airlines famously ran an economy-class piano bar in the back of their 747 cabins, bringing live music to more than just first class. These upper-deck lounges on aircraft like the 747 were often designed with plush swivel chairs, low tables, and warm lighting meant to evoke a hotel bar rather than an airplane cabin. For many passengers, simply being invited upstairs to the lounge felt like a status symbol in itself.
Want to feel like a celebrity? Just step off a plane the old-fashioned way. Before jet bridges existed, passengers disembarked via air stairs or mobile staircases, walking straight onto the tarmac to feel the breeze and take in the airport up close. Air stairs were standard on aircraft like the Boeing 727 and McDonnell Douglas DC-9, giving planes independence from ground infrastructure, especially handy at smaller airports. They also played a memorable role in history. In 1971, hijacker D.B. Cooper used the rear air stairs of a 727 to make his infamous escape. That same rear stair design later became known informally as the Cooper vane, after airlines retrofitted 727s with a mechanism preventing the stairs from being lowered mid-flight, a direct response to the incident that changed aircraft design for years to come.
Did you know planes once had spiral staircases on board? When commercial aviation took off, so did architectural ambition. Both airport design and cabin interiors drew heavily on aviation aesthetics. The Boeing 747, introduced in 1970, was as much a design statement as an aircraft, a two-story cabin connected by a spiral staircase capable of carrying over 500 passengers. That design influence spread to the ground too, like the TWA terminal at JFK Airport, designed by Eero Saarinen, shaped to resemble a bird in flight. Saarinen's terminal wasn't just visually striking, it pioneered the idea of the airport as a piece of architecture worth admiring in its own right, with sweeping curved ceilings, sunken lounges, and departure boards that felt more like art installations than logistics tools.
Flight engineers were once just as essential to flying as pilots. Also called air engineers, they were dedicated crew members who monitored and managed an aircraft's complex systems from their own instrument panel, engines, and other critical functions, working closely with pilots during takeoff, cruising, and landing. Larger aircraft simply couldn't operate without them. Today, computers handle most of that role. The last major U.S. airline to retire flight engineer positions was Northwest Airlines in 2009. Flight engineers trained for years to master the dense wall of dials, switches, and gauges behind them in the cockpit, and their expertise was often credited with helping crews respond quickly to in-flight mechanical issues, a safety net that modern automated systems have since largely replaced. Back in the day, you could literally send a postcard from 30,000 feet. Airlines handed out special in-flight postcards so passengers could jot a quick note or a "wish you were here" and mail it after landing. In an era before smartphones and the internet, this was a beloved way to stay connected. Those old in-flight postcards are now rare collector's items, prized for their charm and history. Many of these postcards featured hand-illustrated artwork of the airline's fleet, complete with the carrier's logo and route map, and today they circulate among aviation memorabilia collectors and vintage postcard enthusiasts, sometimes selling for surprising sums at auction. There was also a time when boarding a plane was as casual as catching a bus, thanks to minimal airport security. No early arrivals, no removing your shoes, no worrying about liquid limits. Airlines even worried metal detectors would feel invasive and scare off customers. That changed as hijacking surged. Between May 1961 and the end of 1972, U.S. airspace saw 159 hijacking incidents. New Orleans International Airport became the first to install metal detectors in 1970, a major step toward the security measures we know today. Friends and family could once walk their loved ones all the way to the gate and wave as the plane pulled away, a farewell ritual that all but disappeared once post-9/11 security measures restricted terminal access to ticketed passengers only. Cabins back then were essentially flying lounges, and smoking wasn't just tolerated, it was routine. Many flights had designated smoking sections where passengers lit up cigarettes or cigars mid-flight, filling the cabin air with smoke. This was long before the health risks of smoking were widely understood, so it barely raised an eyebrow. Flight attendants even handed out cigarettes as part of the standard service. The very last U.S. flight to permit smoking took off in 2000, closing the book on an era when lighting up at 30,000 feet was simply part of the trip. Even the smoking and non-smoking sections were often just a few rows apart with no real barrier between them, meaning the entire cabin ended up hazy regardless of where you were seated, a detail that seems almost unbelievable by today's standards. If you enjoyed this American Rewind video, check out the next one, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below.